So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Kenyan week that was. And tonight we have dredged through the seas and gotten a serious one. This is one chap that I watched, I celebrated, I cheered for even. He's one of the few men that have been able to go I've shed a tear after their Singapore win, that they did the thing that we never thought was possible. And on this episode tonight, we're going to talk about a flag. And what we're going to talk about is, that weight of that flag. Not the kind of flag that, is waved from rooftops during campaign season. Not the one stitched on podium jackets for photo opportunities. And not the one printed behind press conferences where everyone suddenly remembers the word patriotism. This episode is about the actual weight of carrying it, because somewhere between the anthem and the headlines, Kenya created a strange contradiction. The people who physically carry the weight or carry the country across the world often do so with the least protection from it. Athletes bleed for the flag. They train through injury for the flag. They miss school for the flag. They miss their family for the flag, and sometimes even go unpaid for the bloody flag. And yet somehow, the loudest claims of representing Kenya really come from the people sacrificing for the most of it. So tonight, we wanted to talk to someone who actually knows what it exactly feels to carry the weight of this flag. Our guest today spent nearly 2 decades carrying Kenya on his chest. From the 7th circuit to the 15th to the Olympic stage, he lived the anthem. He lived the injuries, he lived the uncertainty, and he lived the silence that sometimes comes after the applause fades away. This is not a nostalgic interview. It's not a highlight reel either. This is definitely not even a celebration piece designed for government reposts. This is an investigation into what it actually costs to represent Kenya, emotionally, physically, financially, and why the burden of patriotism in this country often falls hardest on the people with the least power. So tonight, we ask a very simple question. When someone says, I represent Kenya, what do they really mean? And who actually has earned the right to actually, say that? So welcome back to the Kenyan week that was, and a warm round of applause for my friend and hero and one of the guys that has done it over the course of rugby feats. One, the only, Biko Adema. Karibu sana, my guy. How is everything, my guy?
Asante sana. What an intro.
My guy, welcome, Kabisa. I appreciate you making time to, come through and for us to actually have a moment to have, one-on-one discussion and just see through your great things that you've done, what else could we learn? For instance, with the whole thing that is happening in Nairobi. We are now a few months away from an election, and politics is ripe in Nairobi. And everyone seems to feel they are more patriotic than the other. And so to get us started, I want to ask, how's your week?
My week has been a chill week actually so far. I'm actually on a break from work this week. So it's been very relaxed. I'm able to sleep a bit longer, wake up a bit later, have a nice full breakfast.
My guy, you're living the dream, my guy.
On a normal day, I'm out of the digs with an apple and a bottle of water.
Hey, you are. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear a bottle of water and an apple? This man is not just a machine. He lives it even after he freaking retired. Some of us, we're thinking about a donut.
We have those later.
And, the forgotten or the last night's ugali in the morning, just to inspire, enough to give you the strength.
Yeah.
So other than you being on break, tell us, number one, what inspires you in your life, in just your ordinary life, not being the superstar, the rugby player, the athlete, as Biko Adema?
The things that inspire me, I mean, I look to get in up every day and just trying to better myself every day that comes along. I know I'm not perfect, but I believe I can try to get as close to that perfection as possible in terms of the way I'm interacting with family, friends, the things that I'm doing, the things that how I'm correcting the things that I feel that I disappointed myself with the previous day. That's what keeps me going, and I think at this point in life, in time, also I'm very blessed to have recently just gotten some 2 beautiful daughters. I'm now a father.
Oh, congratulations, my guy. As in, this is amazing. You are brilliant. Congratulations on being a father.
Asante.
Yeah, it's amazing for you.
A father of twin girls. Yeah, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would be a father of twins. Well, yes, I did want to become a father one day.
Okay.
I really had that vision in my mind for quite some time. But of twins, I never wanted.
It was not one of those things that you say that you want. You know, when we were growing up, we always thought, I want twins.
No, it wasn't one of.
It was one of your dreams.
But my dad told me, "Hey, yo, it's a blessing to have twins." And when he said that, I really felt it. And then when he said twin daughters, when he talked about daughters, because he doesn't have daughters, but when he said it's a blessing to have daughters, I really felt that message from yeah.
Congratulations, my guy. And are you sleeping now that you have 2 beautiful daughters? Is now sleep something for the past hour?
It's a rumor, it's difficult to get a good night's sleep, obviously. Not only because of one baby, but two of them
now,
and trying to synchronize their sleep, feeding them, trying to feed them at the same time, which is not always the situation. But we've been learning, and I think things are better now and easier, and I just appreciate just seeing them developing and growing each day. Yeah.
Congratulations to you and the missus. And they bring you guys the greatest joys in whatever you do. Now, let's take me back. Let's start and, like a time machine, and let's go back to your first time that you wore, the Kenyan jersey.
Yeah.
In an official man, not the one that you were given by your bro or your old man from Nairobi Sports House. The first time that you actually wore officially the Kenyan jersey.
Yeah.
What do you remember of that day?
Okay. I wore my first Kenyan jersey when I was in high school, actually, because I played for the Kenya under-18 team.
Okay.
At that time, obviously, I knew I was good at the sport because of the way I grew up playing rugby in terms of how much I had achieved before getting a call up to the under-18. So for me, when I first got that opportunity to put on the Kenyan jersey, I mean, it was an amazing feeling. It's something I dreamt of. I think it's one of the stories that I've always said before is that I feel like I had planned this. I had set it into stone. I'd written it somewhere that I would one day want to play for the Kenya team.
Okay.
When I was in primary school, I happened to be very good in art. And these days, I feel like I'm still good in art, but maybe not as good.
Not as good as then.
But yes, I painted a picture of a Kenyan rugby player playing at the Safari Sevens. And I was actually painting one of my former coaches, Felix Ocheng. And also he's a good friend of mine now. We always chat and catch up. And I painted him playing in the Safari Sevens.
No way.
So that painting was actually exhibited in the Nairobi National Museum for a competition known as the Mohammed Amin competition.
Mohammed. I know the Mohammed Amin competition.
So I was second place.
Okay.
And I got the opportunity to have my artwork exhibited there. And I felt like when those guys asked me, the interviewers asked me, hey, why did you decide to paint a rugby player?
Yeah, because that is a strange thing. Because how old were you at this time?
I was, I think, 12, 13, around there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just told them that this is something that I really enjoy and I love the sport. But also I feel like one day I would like to play at that Safari Sevens for the Kenya team and wear that jersey that you're asking me about.
No freaking way.
For me, I think the idea of wearing the jersey
in this day and age, this is where we stay. So you started manifesting before, back in the day when manifesting was not manifesting.
Hey man, I manifested that thing.
And so when you now this is the young man that painted this thing.
Yeah.
When the night before, tomorrow you're repping the 254.
Yes.
In an official capacity. Do you sleep? Do you have the jitters? Are you afraid that you'll, because this is your first opportunity that you actually are carrying our flag on your shoulders and on your chest.
Yes.
How is that night before the match?
I would say, for me, it's always been a thing before a game. And I remember back in high school, even before any game, even in high school times, because high school was intense, my guy. High school rugby was very intense. I always say it was even more intense than playing for the Kenya Sevens or Kenya 15s.
No, but then again, because I played basketball, and I feel as though high school basketball is far much tougher than even league in Kenya, even though we're not the absolutes.
I think for me, it was all about the passion and what went on behind the scenes in terms of you're playing with your friends. You're growing up with these guys in school. You're with them the whole time. All you guys are waiting for is the 4 o'clock bell to go to the pitch and to train. And, it was more of a religion, like I say. So before a game, we would sleep with our kit on, or have it there next to us, next to the pillow, folded nicely,
prepared.
If the kit fell on the ground, that's a sin, my guy.
No way.
That kit is not allowed to touch the ground. It's supposed to be kept nice and neat until you wear
it. So now, when you felt, now you've woken up the next day and you're at the stadium.
Yes.
What feeling do you get when you first hear the national anthem play out and you're there?
Yeah.
And you're the centerpiece to these words.
Yeah, so obviously standing and lining up for a national anthem, playing in my first ever Kenya national team game. Obviously, that's a 15s game because in the sevens we don't have that lineup.
So sevens, you just come from the and hop in.
Yeah, but for the 15s, yes, you do line up and the anthems are played. So it's an amazing feeling. Just to put your hand on your chest and to see the crowd watch you and sing. Obviously, sing along to your national anthem. Many times, a number of the players would stumble on the words of the national anthem.
No,
I got surprised. To be honest, it was especially when they tried and extended the anthem to the second
and the third sentence.
That was tough.
So, are you trying to tell us, right? If we
we don't
right
have
now,
to do it now. But
you're sure?
I'm confident that I can. Okay. It's been a minute since I've done that.
Don't worry.
But are you confident you can do it?
Hey, my guy.
Start to finish.
My guy, no. I can't.
You were
I can't
dance
put money.
Once upon a time.
Oh my God. That's the one thing I couldn't do ever in my life. But I don't think I'm confident enough. But I want to feel that that moment. I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't know. I know right now we are insufferable, but you shall have to deal with all of us. But one of the things that I watched over the weekend when they were getting the trophy is when they broke into song and they sang the North London Forever, which is a Celtic anthem for the club, of course.
Okay.
And when you see the players and the fans break into a song. How did you tell us the weight of seeing all these Kenyan fans and Kenyan 7 fans and 15 fans? Our rugby fans are known to be the life of things.
Yeah, so I can give an example of maybe when we play in the Safari Sevens. Yes, like I said, we don't usually do it in the sevens, but in the Safari Sevens, because it's a final, then you get to do it.
You get to do it.
Even in the normal circuit, 7th circuit, when it's a final, you get to do it.
Yeah.
So I can just remember, because we happen to have these situations every now and then, but I can remember it being very, very emotional. Just feeling overwhelmed. Probably, I think maybe at some point the tears were running down my cheek, or maybe I was trying to force them to run down so that I can feel like, hey,
that is
we're in a final.
We're in a final and we're about to do this.
Yeah, it's war time.
As I was doing the research about you, I came across something that was a bit that shocked me, because you got your first call up when you were about to do your KCSE exams.
Yes, that's right.
And you decided to go. How do you convince your folks? Because I'm trying to think about talking to my folks first and foremost and telling them, guys, guess what? I've been called and I want to do this. How do you convince them, and what is running through your mind? Because exams are about.
Yeah.
And how do you weigh out this decision?
So obviously it was a big surprise to me when I got that call up. But like I said, I had, before then, I'd played in the Kenya under 18, under 20 squads. I was the captain of my high school team. So it was a surprise, but also I knew that at some point I would get this opportunity. I never knew it was going to come that early, though.
But you see now,
when I'm in
to
school,
even compound it,
yes,
it's coming when you're about to
do my
exams.
I don't think even the coaches or the team manager, when they're calling me, they were thinking about me doing my exams. They were just like, yo, we need a player.
Biko is the guy.
Yeah, Biko is the guy. So, and obviously there were scouts watching me. So I think they had been watching me for some time. So anyway, I told my parents that, hey, the Kenya rugby has asked me to go play with them in South Africa against the Southern Spears, which was a franchise
team, yeah.
And they were also surprised. My dad was more happy, obviously, than my mom, because he watches more sport
and more rugby.
But my mom also was supportive. Both my parents supported me quite a lot during my time playing. So it was just a lot of excitement, not knowing really whether I should go or whether I should decline because of exams coming up and all that thing. But I eventually decided, and my parents gave me the nod to go. And the next few days, I found myself on a plane going to join the team in South Africa for this game.
Now, because everyone else who would do this, who'd want to have a conversation with you, the one thing they would ask is, how did it feel, and who the folks, how, and all this angle that we've done. But I want to ask, did you pass your freaking KCSE exams then? Because you see now, you chose to actually do the unconventional thing, to go for your rugby. And so was it worthwhile? Did you still perform well for those exams that you chose to forfeit or postponed?
No, I think it was still worthwhile. For me, I still managed to do well in the exams and make my parents proud, and managed to get into uni after that and to pursue the courses that I wanted to pursue. So it wasn't something that I felt like maybe I regretted or anything. This was all a path that I needed to go through in order for me to prepare myself for greater things to come in regards to the national team and just to grow in the sport. So I don't think I regret going for that trip.
And with that sacrifice that you took, and you decided, the choices that you made, looking back now, because they say hindsight is 20/20. With all the other things that have happened through and through your career and post the rugby career, what is the one lesson that one day, the one that now ushered you into the realms of being a flag bearer? We live in a time that now we're very politicized. That one day that you took that decision, looking back, because it ushered you into a limelight, that perhaps were you prepared for what it was going to cost? Because that's the cost of actually carrying that flag. That how are you prepared for such moments? And what lesson did you draw from that time?
Oh, wow, man. How I was prepared? I mean, you're not really prepared for such a moment. I feel like whatever I went through in high school with regards to my training and the sport I went through in St. Mary's School, the game of rugby. The people who were playing the game before me, those people, I think, ushered the kind of attitude that I have to the game. They were the people I looked up to, who actually taught me or showed me how I should approach the game. And I think those kind of things, these are the things that maybe prepared me, because when I look back and think about how seriously I took the game, many of my friends would, if they were here, they would tell you, man, this guy was a ruthless captain of the team, and it's because of the things I saw growing up of those who went before me, who are those who are captains before me, and how they handled. How seriously they took the game, how seriously, like I said, they took the jersey of the school. Yes,
leave alone that one of the country.
Of the country. So you see these things. I mean, that was probably that preparing me for that moment for when I'm going to wear this Kenya team jersey. Like I say, all of that played a part for me preparing myself to one day represent the country at the highest level.
And because we're going to revisit this later, one of the things that we're going to talk about is, I want to, what do you think, or what do you feel is, do you think Kenyans understand that at the center of the act or the sports person, there is an individual and there is now the trade? Because what I learned, or what I asked myself in that position is, I have a pod. When I get a chance, I'm called to ask, interview Macron or our President William Samoei Ruto in such a fora. Do I say no because of a stand that I have, or do I use it to make an actual stand? And what we've seen also in sport over the last few years with Free Palestine and all these other movements that are taking place, what do you think is this place of politics in such arenas, whether it's sport, whether it's creative arts or other spaces that are not directly political?
I think it's up to the individual, whether and what they stand for and what they believe in. With regards to the stand they're going to take, I think it's up to the individual what they feel, what they don't feel. They will decide on the day, or according to what they believe. Because I saw also the previous year, was it a few years back, Adelaide Onyango, I don't know if you saw that.
Adele Onyango.
She was given an opportunity to...
In France, in Montpellier.
Yes, to speak. And I watched that recently. I think there was just a recap that came. And I watched that, and I was so impressed with the way she spoke. And
because now, in fact, you've brought it up properly, because it became a and this happened in 2021.
Yes.
But it reran on social media platforms precisely because of Bien and Ombachi. Because Bien left us with one of the coolest statements. He said, presence is not submission.
Yeah.
And which is one of the coolest things to say, because it sounds very poetic. But then if presence is not submission, then what is presence? And Adele, when she had the same... No, we can't compare, because that's a political platform.
Yes.
When she attended that fora, it was a political platform. Yeah. And she was there doing political, even though it's not direct politics, she needed to make a stand. But this is Bien or Ombachi. Ombachi, he wants to be the roaming chef. And he's not there to decide. And when it's been political, he has chosen a side.
Yes.
Previously.
Yeah, he has, yes.
So has Bien.
Yeah.
But what happens when your art or your talent now becomes the mad space where you don't... And does it even translate? I don't know whether in your career as a rugby player, did it happen where there was this tension, political tensions between the team? And how was it approached? How did you guys deal with the politics of the country within the training sessions where it starts as banter, but then you realize, hey, this guy kumbe just might be serious. Was there situations like that?
Not that I can clearly recall, but for most of the part, most players would stay aside from away from the politics that was involved. However, obviously, politics found it found its way to come to us players in terms of we were involved in politics in regards to the union and how things were treated with the union, and to some extent also the government, when the government was involved, or they tried to get the government involved in various ways to promise us certain things and not deliver. But I guess we're going to come to that also.
Yeah, we are. So first and foremost, let's go back. You have 55 caps for the sevens.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, you will correct me. 30 plus for the 15s. Nearly 2 decades in the sport. What did a typical training week look for? When you're going now, you have a competition coming. What did a typical training week look like?
Typical training week looked like just basically waking up early, getting to the training grounds, warming up, having your training session, maybe between, let's say, probably it would depend, either between 5 to around 7, or maybe could start at 6 to 8 or so. So it's basically around 2 hours or so. So it always started with a lot of endurance and strength work. So would be in the gym, would be on the field doing endurance workouts, and then we would get into some gameplay, kind of runs and moves, and so it would ease down as we finish off. But it would start very intense, working out, and then ease off with more of a structural play.
Now, brilliant. You guys put in the work.
Yes.
But let's ask the pseudo-political questions now. Why were they paid practice, or were you guys doing it, or what was the structure around the rugby union? And was it something when you're representing? And now this is not for club; this is for repping the country. When you go into camp, are you getting paid for what you're doing?
You are. It depends on what camp or what training session it is, When I started playing the game for the country, in the beginning, there was not much of compensation for the players or incentive, We would get a bit of an allowance here and there. And that time it was just called an allowance, And because even playing for club rugby in Kenya, you'd get an allowance of maybe, I remember when I started playing club rugby, maybe for about 500 bob, just as transport to get to and fro the grounds. And when you make it to the Kenya team squad, maybe it would be bumped up a bit with the Kenya 15s. They would bump it up maybe to 2 Gs or 3 Gs, depends. That was then. With the Kenya 7s in Kenya, the setup is different. Kenya 7s is more recognized and is the bigger rugby than the 15s. In most countries,
it's the 15s that carries home.
Yes, is where the weight is, and 7s is just a breeder. Exactly. It depended on which kind of training or training camp we were at. But yes, and which part of which season are we talking about? Okay,
break it down.
Like I say, in the beginning, things were a bit challenging for us as players. And I think even before I joined the team, things were worse.
Or even harder.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was, like I say, we got an allowance. As far as I can recall, maybe we were paid about 20 Gs or so per month. Okay, playing for the national team at the beginning. Then obviously once the sponsorships came in here and there, things got better and better, and we fought for our rights and we were trying to push for certain things, and then things became better. And so, like I say, it depended on the season.
So now, let's break it down slightly, because now you've told us it was pretty much seasonal when sponsors were there, when the government was feeling they had enough money, when the unions were working in tandem. Are there moments where you question yourself? You've gone for practice and they've given you your 500 bob, and you're making sacrifices.
Yeah.
Do you question whether, because now you're not a star yet, you're just at the starting point of your journey. Do you question whether this thing is going to be worth it or not? And where do you find the strength?
Of course, you
to
question.
Go like, fuck this shit. They've given me this 500 bob. I'm going to kula mtura pale. But then after that, I must still come back tomorrow.
Yeah. Of course, you question it here and there, but for a young player, you have a lot of hope that things are going to change, and this is just a stepping stone. And you push on through. You push on through. But I definitely saw people coming into the national team setup and stumbling along the way. Like they would come for 1 or 2 sessions. Guys were called up, given that opportunity to come and train with the national team, and then they would find themselves training for 1 or 2 sessions, and then you'd find them just slowly drifting away for all sorts of reasons. Because it was a mixture of all sorts of players from different backgrounds. So you never know what each and every player was going through and what kind of responsibilities they had back home. But I feel like it was something that we always hoped would get better. And definitely when the sponsorship did come, those who stayed strong,
they reaped some good.
They benefited from that, you see.
And so when there were no sponsors, and there are times that the sponsors came and we saw there were arguments, KQ drops and these guys dropped the sponsorship, or the union doesn't do what it's supposed to do. What kept you guys, because perhaps or there are guys within the team that had they were doing this more like a hobby, and they had the hope of doing something else, or they had a career that they were pursuing. But there were those guys within the team that this was the make it or break it in their lives. How do you, when you're in that team talk, and this guy, this guy honestly is struggling. Where do you find the time or the courage to be able to find the unity of purpose to doing this thing?
So yes, like I said, people were from different backgrounds. I mean, many players also, like for example, myself, I remember when I joined the team, it was always said in the back of our minds, we'd hear it from the senior players and we'd say, hey, you guys always have something, a fallback plan. So that's why many guys were also in school doing their uni courses. Some people had jobs on the side, because it was never fully professional. You see, we were amateur. We were amateur for a long time, and we never even got to fully
professional.
But we got to semi-pro, but that was, at some point. But we were always known as being amateur players. So a number of people were doing things on the side. Also, there were those who were not, those who are fully depending on this rugby to open, the doors and to take care of them, their livelihood. So it's a mixture of different kind of scenarios and setups. But when you come together as a team and you're out there trying to play a game or play a tournament, the vision has to be one vision. And through the captain or through the senior players, that camaraderie, that same goal needs to be,
But there's a guy together out here who is.
I know, but I mean, so what's supposed to happen?
How do you guys? Because I feel like, and the reason why I'm asking this question is to paint the picture. I feel as though at times Kenyans do not appreciate the effort that is required to actually pushing something over the line. I have a silly thesis that I say Kenyans are brilliant at starting shit up. What they don't do well is finish. We can be able to get people roused up and let's go even with the man thing. We start. Then when we are starting, then we start seeing the divisions. You have a plan. You have a fallback. That's why when we call you the second time for Maandamano, you're like, but you guy. See, I showed up. I showed up, my guy. I ticked the box.
That's enough. Yeah.
And so what next? And so in such situations, you can replicate the same scene in professional things that people that represent Kenyan professional spheres. And you'll find like in sports, someone will come and say, but Biko, my guy, you can't tell me shit because, you have a fallback plan, my guy.
Yeah.
Soap, my guy. You can't tell me. I'm doing this. This is life and death for me. So when we're asking for this hike, you don't feel when there were those constraints.
Yeah.
When they start showing up, how do you guys find the strength? Because those things will only show up when you're on the circuit now.
Yeah.
Because when you're training, they're all hopeful because they're promises.
Yeah.
Then now you hit the ground, you take a flight, and the day you're supposed to take a flight, money is not there, and now you have to changa or do other things. That's when now you start realizing people are saying, but it's okay, it's Kenya, we don't expect it. What do you find to the strength to do what is required in the circuit when they failed you?
Emotions can run high in a team setup. Like I say again, when people are from different backgrounds, yeah, and people are relying on this income to come or this allowance to come, but it doesn't come, it's delayed. Yeah, and another player can live another day without it, and another one can't. And maybe
they are fair back home.
Yes, or even I heard of situations where some players, maybe their houses were locked. You see, so I guess we try and come together as a team. We try and support each other as a team, in those situations, because these are real life situations, and I did see such scenarios playing out. But we did come together and we tried to support each other as much as we could. And that was the thing about the Kenya Sevens. I feel like as much as we went through all of these things here and there with regards to the politics behind it, the union and everything, for most of the part, we stuck together as a team and supported each other and still showed up and still played with a smile and still danced after the game. That's because this was what we loved doing. So at the end of the day, that's what carried us home.
And you see, to bring it home, in 2022, it was said that there were some senior players that were reported, they were crowdfunding just to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are aware of it, and did it surprise you that such a thing? Because by the time, I guess you had already Malizanad with
had stopped, yes.
But was it heartbreaking?
Well, it was a surprise to hear this and some crowdfunding happening. But also apparently it was because of there was no sponsorship coming through.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't really know the
whole stories, the
whole stories behind it.
Yeah.
But I just followed what I heard on the news as well, just like you and any other person. Maybe I did not dig deeper into what was really going on.
And the reason why I'm asking this, maybe was there a time in your career that either the union or the government, delayed payments, and you were planning and you were waiting for that money? That money had, you had promised to doing something and they didn't show up for you.
Waiting for money was not
new thing.
It wasn't a new thing. It was a common thing. We waited for money a lot of the time. We waited for money 3 months without pay, 2 months without pay. I mean, this was normal. At some point, you become numb to it and you just carry on. And you, like, again, I say, you live on hope that these guys, they gave us hope. They told us, hey, by this time, it will be sorted. And you live with that. Sometimes they might give you some incentives here and there to, or pay some installments to keep you going. But a number of the times it was like that. We were promised a lot with regards to Kenya Sevens. I'll tell you now, and we were promised a lot, a number of the time, by the Kenya Sevens, by the government. We were promised a lot, so many times, but these promises never showed up.
Does it make you think about our Kenyan system, how we interact with, how our political leaders interacts with the general populace? Because politically, all they do every other 5 years is ring out the promises like they did for you guys. And when you now listen to the politician, when you're now retired from the sport and you're seated in your house and you're catching, this, by chance you catch the news and you hear tutatenga, tumepanga, tumeweka.
Wapi. That's what I think.
Because you see, that's the thing. Every 5 years, they come in hot, tell you all the promises. And because you've lived the life where you were the supposed loved child of the country, where you're the pride and charm of our country, the Sevens team. And they did the same to you. When you listen to these political speeches and rhetoric, do you feel that... do you still have the courage or the strength to go like, watafanya hiki kitu, ama do you go like, had this too many times, I'm not sure they'll ever follow through on their promises?
I never think I feel that I can really believe in those promises. Many of the times when I hear such things, because of what I've gone through with the Kenya Sevens in the past, when it comes to promises, I mean, we see it all the time. It's not something new. Even every time we are watching these guys have their political debates before an election. How many times do we see all of those promises of certain things?
Healthcare. We have this plan. They just don't show you how they are going to do it.
Sports, stadiums.
My guy. Because you see, when I think about Kenyan sports, I feel there are two sports that have really, found their space in Kenya and found a recipe to success, perhaps. There's athletics, which is an individual sport, quote unquote, and there's the Sevens rugby. Those are the two things that I believe as Kenya, we've been able to celebrate a great deal of them. When you see these guys speak about sport and the promises they make pre any election, this is what we are going to do. Do you go back and look at the KRFU and you ask them, these guys said this shit, are they going to really fulfill what they said? Or do you go listen to them and you go like, gotcha, good speech, see you next 5 years?
I mean, when you've seen it more than once and... again, like I say, there's always that aspect of hope that things have changed. Maybe there's a change in the governance of the running of the KRU, and new people have been come to be put in charge of different aspects of the union. Then you think, okay, fine. Now we have a new team, new management, and then again the same things happen. So. Not to say that all the time it was negative. There were times, yes, things were fulfilled and we were happy. But a lot of the time, things were not fulfilled, and that was common. It was just common.
So, your last game for the 15s ended with a career-threatening knee injury.
Yes.
What kind of support did this, our good governance and good government, offer you?
I don't even think that there was much support given.
Or was there a structure?
Okay. There was insurance for the team. But however, that was when I was playing. I moved back to the 15-a-side team. So with the 15-a-side team, obviously, the resources are not that much. So, however, there was still some cover. And luckily, I used a lot of the resources in regards to the the physiotherapist, who was a very good physiotherapist that we worked with. And I used him to actually guide me through this injury process and where to go to and which doctor to see to do my surgery. So I feel like, yes, there was the insurance which took care of it for the most of the part. But again, there have been situations where I've seen in the past where players have not gotten assisted with regards to their injuries or had to follow up, or their club team came, stepped in,
had to do the heavy lifting.
Exactly, when you'd think that the Kenya team would be the one to stand up and sort things out.
Because now that were you thinking of retiring at that moment, or was it an retirement induced off or by the injury? Would you had you thought out and planned out that, hey, after this, I think then the injury happened, or is it something that was in the pipeline? Walk us through that part of your career.
Well, I mean, during that time, because I was out of the sevens and I was now at the tail end of my career. I was now focusing, trying to think about what else can I do after this rugby. Because, like,
can I stop you 1 minute?
Yes.
I want to ask, walk us through how you finished with the sevens, and was it one of those ones that now, you couldn't deliver more? I remember, I think Lavin left before you.
Yes.
Yeah. Then after you became the guy who was kicking now for us.
Yes.
Walk us through that decision, that moment that you realize, hey, my guy, I'm at the tail end of this thing, and what do I do next? Because you're at the top now.
Yeah.
The upper echelon of this thing.
Yes.
How do you conceptualize that whole part of your life?
Well, so with regards to the sevens, I mean, I went for the Rio Olympics. That was under Benjamin Aimba. Yes, he was our coach when we went for the Rio Olympics. And that was my last Kenyan tournament with the Kenya Sevens team. After that, there was obviously a change of the helm in regards to the coach in Kenya. So Benjamin was no longer the coach. There were many changes. A number of the players were not returning. Innocent Simiu came in as a new coach. And I think at that point, there was a bit of a break. And then now, the new coach was starting to pick players and try and build a new team. So initially, a number of the previous players were not selected. I happened to be one of them. And I followed up with him, and I wanted to find out how can I get back to, because I still had the energy to play, the excitement to play, and I still wanted to play. And I was wondering how come I'm not included while some others are. So I was given an opportunity to come back and to train. And I did train for a bit, but I was only allowed to come in for the fitness sessions. During the fitness sessions, I remember I actually aced them. I actually did quite well. Okay. Yes, I was even surprised myself after quite a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And then I think that the squad had already been decided by the coaches, and there was nothing else that was coming from my once a week training, which was only the fitness part of it. So I think I just saw that as, okay, this is a sign that maybe I'm not wanted in this setup. It's time for me to just move on and to do something else. And then the 15-a-side team called me back into their squad, because at that point now in Kenya, they were trying to separate the 15s and the 7s. So once the 15s saw that there's a player available from the 7s, they called me back into the 15s setup. So I went back into the 15 setup, and I played a couple of seasons with them.
Now, before you get that call from the 15s, that moment, that night that you go home, you lala and you're in your bed and you're thinking, that it's done. These guys ain't telling me, but I know it's because they're my boys. They just don't know how to tell me, my guy, it's a wrap. and you don't know whether 15 is going to come calling.
Yeah, but you see that the thing, like I said, and I've said before, that is why people had things that they were doing aside from the rugby. Because I was already, at that point, I was already trying to set myself up in schools to do some coaching.
Okay.
So I was doing a bit of coaching in schools, and I wanted to further that career in schools with regards to coaching. So I had already been called. One of my good friends had arranged for me to get an opportunity to coach at a school, under school, and I then joined them as a coach. So I was doing coaching as well and working with the PE team, and that's how I finally found my way getting into schools. And later on, I then
transitioned into what we will find out and what else that you were doing. Yes. But now I want to. Because I'm trying to, the reason why I'm asking and I'm even hanging around on this end is, it's the same thing that we think about our political, Kenya as a country. 2022 happens and this guy is campaigning on, Hustler versus Dynasty, we're going to do this bottom up. And then one morning, in June of 2024, when people do not agree with what he wants to, tax and all this shit, he kills some of us. It's that part that I want us to reflect on, that when you realize that, guess what? Whatever hopes we had, and you go back to the drawing board and you go like, my guy. And when you think you have the momentum, because like the same Mandamano thing, everyone believed, and that is why there was that chant for, let's go to State House and all these things, hoping that we'll be able to finally topple this chap. Then now it fizzles out. And now you're in a new world because your dreams had been met, but they've not gotten to the place that you wanted them to get to. You're almost there, but then now you have to go back to the drawing board and go like, hey, perhaps I can do coaching. Where do you find the strength, to pick yourself up and go like that? Even though I'm not going to be chosen now, that I'm still not done with this dream. That I can now morph it into something else, something long-term that I can actually do and give back to not just society, but even to the Kenyan end of citizenry, with the kids and the people who you're going to do. Where do you get that strength? That night that you're by yourself, where do you find that impetus to go like, fuck, how do I now?
It's something that I saw myself moving into. It's something I wanted to do. I saw an opportunity and I took it. Yeah. So for me, I feel like I was okay. I was okay with the, transitioning because I knew from a long time, you're told or that sports is not a long career. Okay. Sports has never been a long career because of there are things that can happen to you. You can get injured. Okay. That's a big thing that can take you out of sports. Then you can also get old and you can stop playing because of age. So those things are already in your mind. And for me, it was about maybe, again, injury also took me out in terms of also when I got my knee injury and I saw that, there's too many injuries. Plus, I'm no longer playing in the Kenya Sevens, which was the bigger rugby in Kenya. The Kenya 15s, well, I would like to continue, but still, you cannot. I wouldn't be one of the people who would just do Kenya 15s on its own. I don't think that would sustain my upkeep.
Whatever upkeep and
yes. So. I had to make a decision and I found myself just leaning towards focusing on this other path that I wanted to, I was curious about and I wanted to take it.
And now, because our conversation is centered about the weight of the flag, do you one day miss, after you're out of the sevens, you've tried to get back, Innocent has gone like, cheers, baba. Is there a day that you feel, it reckons on you that I'm not going to represent this country again?
Yes, it does.
And how does it feel knowing that? Do you have to question yourself? Did I do them proud? Did I carry it properly as I should have?
Yeah. So I feel like, yes, you do feel like, okay, this is because a big part of my life was spent playing rugby for the nation. So you do feel like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to feel? The routine of training as often is not going to be the same, obviously. And I was so used to training and just being that fit person. But you think about, and then you read about how people go into some depression from sports.
When you can't do the thing that you've been doing all your life.
But you read those things. But I mean, if you're strong-willed and you have a strong mindset, those things, you look at them and you read them, and I was very optimistic of the next phase in my life and what else I would like to achieve, because I have many aspirations and just dreams. So those are the things I stuck onto, and I knew that things are going to work out for me, and I would get to do something else that I enjoy. And
so I become a coach at Banda. Is this before you get selected for 15s or after?
No, during.
So
no, actually before.
When now you are at Banda and you're the superstar because you're Biko Adema, my guy, and these kids are looking up to you, and now their coach is top shot.
Yes.
And then now you get the 15s call.
Yeah.
How does that translate to those kids? And how do you now go like, how do I prioritize? I'm being called to be a superstar again over here. There's like what happens in the view of what now you've started a new path?
So nothing much changed because already the school was supporting me quite a bit with regards to my rugby. That's why, even like I say, I was already working in the school when I was playing with the Kenya Sevens. Yes, so they would support it, and the fact that I was representing the country, it was benefiting them as well. They used that.
They used your
they used that to say
position.
Yes, to market.
As branding.
Is branding, exactly. So they supported in regards to whenever I needed to travel for a tour where I'm out for 2 weeks. I mean, they wouldn't make it a big deal.
So now let's get into the political end of this conversation.
All right.
As we now try and find our footing. When you hear a politician say that I represent Kenya, or when you see them when you guys went for Olympics, and you see a host of politicians, all decked up in the same nguos you guys have worn. And they have the whole kit, the whole regalia.
And we don't even have some.
You guys don't have. Some of you guys don't have. And when you hear them say they represent, what do you think that means to you when they say they represent Kenya?
I think it's just a facade, man. I think that these guys, it's disappointing. That I remember when we got to see that, what you're talking about, and we were at the Olympics, and we were actually, when we were at the Rio Olympics, we did not have all our kit as well.
No freaking way.
So we missed out on a few of our
kits.
Our kits, and our gear.
No way.
Yes, and I remember I think there was a training session where we had to borrow some kit, if I'm not wrong, from another African country. So because we did not have our training kit, our official training kit had not arrived and stuff like that. And then you get to find out that people even back in Nairobi who have not even toured have the full kit. You see? So
how does that make you feel? When you're in Rio and you hear this is happening and you see these guys all decked out and you're wondering, you have to borrow.
And then you hear that people are hiding boxes underneath their beds of kit.
How do you even...
And the whole family members have
it. How do you even still go down onto the pitch and go like...
I guess you... You see, it's very disappointing. I guess it comes down to us actually having grown up in that kind of system. To some point, to some extent, that you're used to.
You know it's going to happen.
You know it's going to happen. You know, it's not even such a big surprise. I'm sure if it was to happen to a team like England or SA or even New Zealand, hey,
they would be surprised. They would wonder.
No, they would not play. They would not. I'm telling you, these guys would strike. They would not play.
Bringing us that question, do you think our political end, do you think our political class truly understand what it means to represent country?
I do not think they have an idea, man.
You just don't think that they understand. You don't even think they have an idea.
Yeah.
Why? Because they always have the lapel, the lapel flag.
Yeah.
And they always have, and their red bottom shoes.
Which look so good on a suit.
It's amazing, my guy.
Yeah.
And the Kenyan sneakers. But why do you think that they do not have the utmost feeling of what it means to represent our country?
I feel like, this is my opinion, maybe it's because they've not been in those shoes. Many of these people are not chosen because they've been part of a sporting system or involved in a structure of sports before. Some of them, their way of thinking is still backward. They do not connect. Many of these guys do not connect because they don't even come and visit. A number of the time, they don't visit to come to the ground to see what players are going through. I'm telling you.
They're out there with our money,
yes,
our kit, and they don't even show up.
They don't show up to come and see us and to actually find out from the players, from the ground, what's happening, how are you guys doing? Yeah, to speak to us. And I think that's where they would get to actually feel what exactly
it means to represent.
It means, yes, and it means to what it means to carry this flag and to wear this flag. Many of the guys who are playing rugby in Kenya are doing it because it's a hobby. It starts out as a hobby, and you just want to do it
because you love the sport.
Because you love the sport,
but you never turn pro.
You never turn pro, so and you don't know what it's like to be a pro. That's why I'm saying a guy from England or New Zealand
would never.
They
can't even dream of that idea.
Like if they go through some of the things that us guys as Kenyan rugby players go through, man, they would give up so quickly. And it's because they hold themselves highly also. They know what they're worth. Us guys, we could be swayed by a bit of a promise. There's an installment coming. Relax.
Yeah, chill. We'll get there. Don't worry, we will get you.
Exactly. You can be swayed a bit.
And you see, because for me, what irks me completely is when a sports person underperforms. Imagine they're dropped. When you slightly underperform, we forget you. You stop being on our lips. We stop singing your praises. But how comes we've never gotten over the hump that when our politicians underrepresent us or underperform, when they steal our kits, when they steal our money, they take money that was meant for medicines in our hospitals. How comes we were never able to, stop and tell them, hey, you guys, this is too much. We have to drop you guys. As a sports person who's represented country, how comes we've never gotten to that part?
Well, I don't really know as into why we've never gotten to that part. But it's interesting, like you say, in sports, as soon as you misperform, underperform, hey,
it's a rap, my guy. No, everyone is like, cheers, my guy.
Twitter is buzzing. But yeah. But again, I guess it's easier said than done when it comes to these leaders, political leaders. Because, people complain. People complain all the time.
But you see, then again, is it that they're able to masquerade? And, because you see in sports, you are visible. If you're getting older, if you can't run as much as you could, It's visible. As in, all of us will be like, my guy, Biko, you need to retire, bruh. See, we appreciate you, but my guy, time is squished. Now, just retire. But for our political class, we keep thinking, he promised us he'll do something different this time. He tutatenga. It's ama namna gani, my friends. It's one of those ones where I come, I deck in the uniform, I carry a flag, and I go like, my guys.
But is it always the case?
Now, often than not, if you look at our political class, very few of them are ostracized because of underperformance. They are ostracized because either they did not follow the party that was hyped at the time, or they did not join the bandwagon that was winning in that particular time, which for me is one of those things that doesn't make sense. My preferred political candidate in the coming election, mine, is David Maraga. But if you go everywhere to most Kenyans, they tell you that is the guy, but he can't win. We've already dismissed him before we even gave him the chance. They're saying, he's not political. One of the weirdest things they keep on saying is he lacks charisma. And it's the same thing they keep wondering. Yes, okay. I don't know when charisma became the reason why we want someone in a political office. It's like saying, I need you, Biko, to be a rugby player.
Yeah.
But you don't have charisma.
But which politician has charisma? Which have charisma? Wakina Sifuna.
Sifunas, the Gachagwas, the Rutos, all these people, they have charisma, but sketchy pasts. And the question that because one of the things is I want to ask, when you carry that weight of this, how can we translate the weight that you carried of the flag onto our political streets? Because the people who don't vote, it's a you and I. Guys from Shags. One of the things that I listened to Kibe, and most people don't like Kibe, but Kibe said something very profound. The reason why we find ourselves in the predicament that we find ourselves politically is because we allow guys from Shags to vote. They turn out. We turn up. On the day before the election,
we turn up. That's crazy.
Then they're turning out for voting. As we are turning up in the club, hoping that I'll catch the.
And then you go in the after.
After you will find there's a line and you go like, you guys, it's never that serious. This is Kenya, we know. So the question is, how do we get our country folk, our guys of our age, to think like you, the athlete, and understand the weight of carrying that flag over the line? And now for once, we choose and we say, yes, I know it's a difficult match. We are going against the Fijians. But guess what? We've got to show out and give it our best. We've never done it before, but guess what? This is our chance. If we give it everything, we could chomoa a couple of them, change the regime, and put the others on notice that if you don't stand for us, then we won't stand for you. How do we do that?
When I think about how we do it in regards to the game, and we are facing a giant like Fiji or New Zealand. Finally, I was one of the players who believed in my teammates. We need to believe in who we have. We believe in who we have, who we got at the moment. And those people who have shown themselves, who have shown up for the country, and who have put in the work, will do their job. See, so I believed that these guys of mine who have trained and have seen day in, day out, doing the work, they will show up on the day. That's the same way we need to treat those people who we're trying to put into these positions. They'll show up and we'll believe that they will come through.
And so, how do you hold in your circles the same way you held your brothers who are on the pitch with you? How how do we hold, our circles, our boys,
yes,
to the task that come election day, you'll not just be a registered voter, but you'll be a participating voter?
Yeah, you need to hold your as teammates. You need to hold each other accountable, because you all have trained for the same goal, the same purpose. You've put in the work. You know what the outcome you want to achieve from this this target that you've set. So, when somebody is not able to live up to that performance, then you have to question them. Hey, why? What was going on? What was going on in your mind? What was going on before the training? Yeah. So again, we have to question these people. If they cannot deliver, then we have to question them. Because many times, yes, there will be times when people will not deliver on a rugby pitch. But the thing is, now with politics, can we give people a chance and then ask them once they've been put into the positions?
We can't.
You see, well, that's the thing. We cannot change. It's not up to us just to decide to change it. So we need to be very clear on who we are selecting. That's why it has to be. People need to really, really do their homework. Do the background checks before we put these people into power.
You've said it properly, because you guys actually put in the work. The reason why you win is not because of the game that you play. It's for the practices that you've done all week long and all life long.
But we always said it. We need to train like we play. And the conditions need to be, we try and mimic the conditions to be the same as a playing condition. Obviously, a training session cannot be as difficult. A game is very different. And most of the time, yes, the training sessions will never be as hard as a game. But sometimes we need to mimic or make those training sessions very hard, to the point where we feel like we are playing an actual game. Make us tired, make us run, and make us, because only when you're as tired as you can be, that's when you will see whether you can perform under that pressure, whether you will still pass the ball, whether you still make the tackle, whether you will still drift and make your cover defense. Only when you are at the point where you're very tired, under pressure, will you see whether you can actually perform.
Now, to break it down a bit, to just break down the episode, I want us to take a small, quick question round, quick fire question. Not thinking, just straight shooting.
All right.
Pew, pew, pew. Rugby or music, if you had to choose one, or to drop one?
To drop one?
Yeah.
If...
no thinking, my guy.
Music. To drop one or to take one?
To drop one.
To drop one?
Yes.
Rugby.
Best Kenyan rugby player you ever shared a pitch with?
Humphrey Kayange.
One thing Kenya gets completely right about sport?
Athletics. What?
One thing Kenya gets completely wrong?
Government support.
A politician who actually showed up for sport. Name one if you can.
Sport. They showed up in helicopters, man. On to the Safari 7 speech, that's all I remember.
The trombone?
Yes.
When did you start and why?
I started playing when I was in class 7. My brother was playing an instrument, the clarinet, and one of his friends was playing the trombone, and I thought it was an interesting and cool instrument to play.
Best post-match meal in all your years on the road? Post-match meal?
I love a steak. Nice medium well steak. Yes.
Hardest thing about coaching kids with the same dream you had?
You never really know what children ambitions are. So you can only hope that whatever you're impacting on them is
worthwhile.
It was worthwhile, and they'll take it positively.
Fix one thing in Kenya overnight. What is it? One thing.
There's so many things. um, the mismanagement of the public funds. Yeah, feel like that.
Wow. And finally, politicians giving large cash gifts to sports stars. Yes or no?
Giving what?
Huge sums of money to sports star and athletes. Yes or no?
Yeah, depends on the situation.
There's no point. It depends on the situation. Yes
If they win a tournament, if they win an IRB Sevens tournament, or a big tournament, win the cup,
World Cup,
or the World
whatever,
Cup, yes,
whatever.
Definitely, they should be rewarded.
I'm not talking government. I'm talking politicians.
Oh, politicians. I mean, that, well, I don't know if it has happened in the past, but obviously it will raise some eyebrows.
So, yes or no?
I don't know.
Thank you for your honesty, my guy. Now, back to the conversation.
Yeah.
Now you're coaching.
Yes.
And teaching and working with young athletes. What do you tell them about representing your country?
Well, I tell them about the hard work that they need to put in to obviously to achieve their dreams. And also what it takes and what a team sport gives them. For me, rugby taught me a lot in terms of discipline, teamwork, perseverance, being resilient, all these kind of attributes and things I feel I got from rugby. And so I try to teach them all of these things and try to make sure that they understand that for them to achieve in any sport, not only rugby, or in any other thing that they want to achieve in life, they need to have a certain amount of discipline and focus. Yeah.
Now that you're a father,
yes,
and you're also a coach, because those are attributes of, I think, parenting.
And a teacher.
You do all the most critical things in the formation of a child. What do you think or feel is important? What do we need to do to equip our young kids into knowing the importance of getting the right people in leadership? Even for your kids, when the time comes.
Wow. That's an interesting question. Well, I feel like when the time comes, I would have equipped them with the right information in terms of what they've heard or what they've seen from media around them, or even what they get from the school. I would allow them to have a forum where they can discuss these things with me, and we can debate it to some extent, so that they are coming up with their own kind of way of thinking, but it is a positive way of thinking. Like I say, I don't know everything in the world, but I feel like obviously when regards to bringing up my children, I will definitely try and raise them in the best way I know how to. And I'll give them a forum where they can share, where they can explore their ideas, their thoughts, and we can come up with ideas together. We can build something together. That's the way I think I would go about.
As a father, as a former athlete, I want to ask, to vote or not to vote?
I think it's important to vote. People need to exercise their right to vote and share their opinion. Try and make the best choice possible after weighing all the options, and hope that this choice is going to be the correct choice that will lead the country into the right direction.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming, as in you've been a brilliant sport. But before I let you go,
yes, sir,
I want you to, look at the camera and address the young Kenyans and the Kenyans in general, who are planning for a 2027 election, who are charged politically, who do not understand what it really means to carry the weight of that flag.
Mhm.
And because you've carried that weight, you've walked into stadia, you've walked into places with that, not just the pin and the lapel, but with the weight of actually being the Kenyan bearer of good or bad news. Talk to them and tell them what is required or what the actual weight of the flag and the anthem that we sing really is, and in respect to what we need for our political leadership, so that tomorrow when someone speaks about representing us, then they can understand what true representation really is.
Yeah. So it is important that when we go out there to vote, we try and make the best choices possible. Carrying this flag is not an easy thing. It requires a lot by the person or the people, and we're all in it together. Whether we're in sports, politics, or whatever other field we're in, it is important that we make the right choices. There will be pressure.
Yep.
There will be pressure from all sorts of directions. But how can we block that pressure and make the right decision? Because that right decision is the one that's going to count, and it's going to make the difference to whether we're going to win or lose in terms of who we are selecting. I know we've gone through times where things have not worked out in the past. Even like I was telling Tony here, even in sports, many times things did not work out for us. But there was hope.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned the word hope quite a bit.
Yeah.
We should not give up. We need to maintain the hope. There is a promised land somewhere, and we need to lead ourselves to that promised land. Hopefully now, in the country of Kenya, we have people who are more aware of what we need to do and what kind of direction we need to steer this country in. And I hope that people could come together and make that right choice.
Brilliant. Well said. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having us and listening to our conversation. And I want to leave you with the thought that, I want to celebrate Biko, because I remember before the Kenya Sevens won the Singapore circuit, we had tried, attempted, gotten so close, failed. It wasn't something that looked very attainable, but you guys never stopped believing. You carried our flag regardless of what everyone else thought of you guys. You are in the circuit, you are the amateurs, the semi-pros, the not full rugby players. But that never derailed you guys, never stopped you guys from giving your 100. And it's the same thing I implore all our listeners, our fellow citizens, as they call them, and fellow Kenyans, that even though it looks unsurmountable, we can still demand for more. And it is within our purview to demand that whoever represents us actually carries our flag with the true weight it actually has, and not give us mushenene and tell us that he's representing us. So if the next time you talk to your MP or talk to your buddies about a vote, ask them if whoever they want to vote really, really understands what representation means and what the weight of the flag really means. It's been the Kenyan Week that was. I'm your host, DYO, aka Anto, and Biko. Thank you very much, my guy. And let's have another one soon, my guy.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah.
Asante.